Alright, let's dive into what's happening in the markets today, because there's a lot to unpack and personally, I think it's a perfect storm of corporate moves, geopolitical tensions, and economic indicators that could shape the week ahead. Here's the deal. The ASX 200 is poised to open lower, and while that might sound like just another day in the markets, what makes this really interesting is the context behind it. First off, Wall Street had a decent Friday, with the S&P 500 closing higher, driven by gains in consumer discretionary stocks. Amazon, for instance, saw a 15.3% surge after reporting its fifth consecutive quarter of cloud revenue growth. Now, if you take a step back and think about it, this isn't just about Amazon. It's about the broader narrative around AI investments. 6 of the Magnificent 7 tech giants have reported, and the consensus is that the hundreds of billions poured into AI might actually pay off. But here's the kicker. Nvidia, the last one to report, won't do so until August 26th. So, while the US markets are feeling optimistic, that sentiment isn't translating to Australia. Emmanuel Dat from Dat Capital put it bluntly, the ASX tech names aren't expected to benefit much from this rally. What this really suggests is that the ASX is more sensitive to local and geopolitical factors right now. Speaking of geopolitics, let's talk about Trump's decision to cancel a planned attack on Iran. On the surface, it seems like a de-escalation, but what many people don't realize is the timing of this announcement. It comes just as the ASX is about to open for the week, and with the Middle East tensions looming, investors are likely to be cautious. Trump's social media post about being locked and loaded, but holding off for negotiations is classic Trump, dramatic, attention-grabbing, and leaving room for interpretation. But here's the deeper question. How much of this is posturing, and how much is genuine diplomacy? From my perspective, it's a mix of both, and the markets are going to be watching closely to see if a deal materializes. Now, let's shift gears to some corporate news that's flying under the radar but could have big implications. Fleet Partners just received a takeover bid from pet-backed SG Fleet, and KKR is moving forward with a $7.7 billion bid for Steadfast. These aren't just isolated deals, they're part of a broader trend of consolidation in the sector. What makes this really interesting is the timing. With the ASX already under pressure, these bids could either stabilize certain stocks or create volatility, depending on how investors react. Personally, I think these moves are a sign that companies are looking to strengthen their positions in an uncertain market. Another detail I find fascinating is Firefly Metals' success at its Canadian gold project. Gold is often seen as a safe haven in times of uncertainty, and with geopolitical tensions and economic headwinds, this could be a smart play. But what this really suggests is that mining companies are diversifying their portfolios, which could be a strategic move to hedge against market volatility. Finally, let's talk about the property market. Cotality is set to release house price data for July, and the expectation is further drops. Higher borrowing costs, weak sentiment, and changes to negative gearing are all weighing on demand. But here's the thing, despite the slump, investors were racing to buy before the self-managed superannuation fund borrowing ban took effect. This raises a deeper question. Is the property market correcting, or is it just pausing before another surge? In my opinion, it's a correction, but one that could create opportunities for savvy investors. So, what's the big takeaway here? The markets are at a crossroads, influenced by everything from AI investments to geopolitical tensions to corporate deals. If you take a step back and think about it, this week could set the tone for the rest of the year. Personally, I'm going to be watching how these threads intertwine, because in a market like this, the real story isn't just what's happening, but how it all connects. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below.